Hi guys, my name is Pablo and today I'm going to be talking about sports photography. For me, really, sports photography boils down to stopping motion and showing motion. If you see the image in front of you, I stopped this dog at 1/500th of a second. For me, when it comes to showing motion, always start at your shutter speed. Determine what your concept is. Did I want to show the swoosh of this dog, the energy of this dog? I just wanted to show that this dog was active. So I set my shutter to stop motion. For me, stopping motion always starts for clear, surefire shots at 1/500th of a second. 1/500, as you can see above our screen. And here's the opposite. Stopping motion and then showing motion. Long exposure, 30 seconds. Not necessarily sports, but it shows the streak. It shows that we're showing motion. My concept was clearly there. I'll talk about here at the end how you can actually stop cars, stop things in motion when you are at long shutters with using your flash. I'll show that as my last example. And here we go. Showing motion 1/30th. Same concept in this picture. Here I'm stopping motion at 1/1000th. As a recap, remember, 1/500th clearly stops drops of water, people in the air. So 1/1000th right here is clearly showing the mermen and the water and the backlit water completely captured. And here's the opposite. That's showing motion. Isn't it amazing how streaks of water look like sparks of fire less than 1/60th? And the simple way to show this type of motion, keep your camera still, take that breath, fire on your exhale. You can see that here I'm stopping motion while moving at the same speed as my subject. And in this situation I'm on a bike. And you can see that his shadow and his body are actually tack sharp. That means that I was moving at the same speed that my subject was. That's essential. And you can see that a subject moving in the opposite direction becomes entirely a blob of motion. And that's a wonderful way of showing sports, of showing athletes, showing the commotion of athleticism. And here's another, this shot is perfectly done. This one not so well, this one's perfectly done. Panning, moving forward and backward on a bike. Again, 1/30th, my shutter clearly started my concept off as me showing motion. I wanted to show the energy of the runner, not necessarily the runner being there running. I wanted to show that he was running and he was clearly running. Here's another example, 1/15th of a second on a boat. Keep my camera still, trying to show that the clarity of the boat, but trying to show that I was moving. Here's another one. This is a great way of showing motion. Panning bicyclists, panning people in front of you. For me, a good panning speed starts around 1/20th of a second to about 1/40th. The trick is, pick a spot. Pick one spot where you want to focus in on that bicyclist. As he approaches, start over here. Put your spot on him over here, and continue. Make sure your camera's on continuous fire. Hold your shutter down. You'll usually get one good shot here, if not this one, if not this one. You're always going for one shot and keeping one spot on your camera on my subject the whole time he moves. If my camera moves faster than my subject, then my subject would be rendered blurry, streaky. In this situation, as you can see, he is not coming on a flat plane towards me, he's coming horizontally towards me. Therefore his bike shows that motion, that streaky motion. However, I was moving at the same speed as his head. Like I said, keep that one spot entirely the whole time as you pan your camera for showing motion. And in this situation I was pretty successful at 1/40th of a second. Again, when do we pan to show motion? When we hate our backgrounds. In this situation, the background was a fence, a car, a building. Well, they're not so distracting anymore. It's clearly about the motion being shown. In this situation, now I want to talk about the shutters that you find between 1/60th and 1/500th. Well, I didn't forget about these shutters. These shutters help me especially when I'm shooting for portraits or I'm trying to show some clarity and some motion. I would pick shutters between 1/60th and 1/500th, the in-between land. In this situation, 1/100th is the perfect shutter to clearly capture my girls happy, throwing their fall leaves up in the air, but I clearly had a slow enough shutter to show that motion. Sorry, I'm trying to keep the 5 minutes here. I'll probably have one more minute. This image, again, here my clear concept was to show that there's a runner in motion. So, did it matter to have him not in focus? Absolutely did not matter. I set my camera out here, I set my focus out here, I stayed still, I waited for my runner to come through, creating a shoot through. The concept would be a shoot through while showing motion with a relatively, I would call it slow, fast shutter speed. Here, done perfectly, executed perfectly. My runner's at 1/100th, but his feet are soft. And so it's very important for you guys to remember, again, if your concept is to show some motion, by all means, don't shoot at 1/60th, shoot at 1/100th, shoot at 1/60th of a second, 1/160, and you get these soft edges, clearly ways of showing motion. Here's a picture of my nephew, and here's the shutter I really wanted to find for you guys, 1/250th of a second. 1/250th is clear, surefire shutter to stop motion, however, it still shows some motion. So we're not stopping the rays of the water drops entirely, we're showing their streak, but we can still capture and stop things in the air. I want you guys to remember that I did not mention, if you clearly want to capture motion, you set your shutter at 1/500th. You can see in this picture at 1/250th, my subject's edges are soft. So that's a technical law you need to remember. 1/500th will render sharp edges as long as you're focusing in somewhere on him when you fire, when you're focusing somewhere on his body as he comes in through that plane. Here's a perfect example of 1/500 at its best. We got hired to shoot a St. Patrick's Day example of these girls that walk with the parade, a local tradition for Savannah. Well, in this situation, I had my shot. Now I put my reflector in play, and I want you guys to show you guys that you can definitely stop motion, especially with sports, and still use good light by having a reflector there. Had my reflector off to the right. In this situation, it was my partner and my girlfriend Brittany. She was holding the reflector, and again, went for my first shot, knew what I had to get done, and I finally got that shot at 1/500th, caught her in the air with my reflector. Here's another picture of my nephew, 1/400th. Here what I want to talk about is, if you know your subject is going to be coming into your frame, you can pre-focus. Here, I must have pre-focused somewhere on the ground, somewhere around the plane where my nephew is going to be coming in. In this situation, the plane is found somewhere below him on the grass. I focused on the grass, I told him 1, 2, 3, and he took off. I did continuous shutter, and you can see that my concept here is 1/400th of a second. 1/400th tells me, hey, I'm stopping motion. I don't want soft edges. In this situation, you can see I still have a few soft edges. And there's my shot, captured. I think that's the best one. However, it's not the most exciting one. And here's my nephew again. Here, clearly this is the best way of shooting sports. On a bright sunny day, look at how fast I can take my shutter to. 1/2500 renders complete sharpness. In the wind, blowing the trees back here, to these guys, to my nephew, everything is completely stopped. So, if the concept is to entirely stop motion, you're getting paid for it, or you got called to shoot your little cousin's football game and you don't want to mess it up, then shoot at least 1/500th of a second, but I would recommend go into bright sunny days, avoid shooting in an arena if you can. Now let's talk quickly about arena. I don't have arena pictures with me, but if you do get stuck in a gym or in a gym with low light like a lot of us do, I recommend definitely using that ISO, something I haven't talked about, using that ISO at least 800 and starting your shutter at least 1/200th. So there I'm pushing it. I'm telling you that these are ideal situations. Bright, sunny day, 1/2500 for clearly stopping motion, doing good sports photography. However, we don't always have that luxury. Sometimes we get asked to have a big lens. Do you have a fast lens? I never knew what a fast lens was. Fast lens basically means that the glass being such a low f-stop with such a high zoom, so like a 500 millimeter with a f2.8, renders you or allows you to have a faster shutter, right? Let's just quickly recap how f-stops work. The lower the f-stop, the bigger the diaphragm, the bigger the circle inside, allowing light to come in. The aperture is much bigger, therefore you can have a much faster shutter. And here's another example. This example is actually tracking motion while keeping my focus spot on something that's moving, using my AI servo functions on my camera. The AI servo is something that almost works like a missile honing its subject. You put your focal spot on your subject and you don't stop it. And as your subject moves, you continue firing. And that is a perfect example of stopping some good motion. And here's my last picture I want to talk about. The most technical way of stopping motion with low light is to use a flash, and is to be aware that your flash can't be further than about 5 to 6 feet. You really want that strong, powerful light syncing with your shutter. The way it works, you can pick any shutter you want when it comes to stopping something with a lot of motion. In this situation, 1/60th of a second renders that I was literally panning with this dog. Therefore, you can see the motion in his shadow, something I want to clearly define. As you can see, why is that grass motion and the grass that was hit by flash not motion? That's the key point. Flash that hits motion, that with the subject being relatively close, entirely becomes sharp, even though your slow shutter is still showing that concept of motion. So this last image shows a clear mix between stopping motion and showing motion. I came into the shot knowing that I would stop my motion with flash, allowing me to have a slower shutter. That's it for today, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.